My name is Robbie Shapira. At Wells Fargo, I lead our diverse growth for small and business banking and consumer, and how we help diverse customers be successful. What it basically means is this. At Wells Fargo, we are really putting a concerted effort into how diverse customers can come into our branches, meet us digitally, use our products and services, but in a way that helps diverse and women-owned businesses and consumers to be more successful. It's everything from if English isn't your first language, and how do we at Wells Fargo make you feel more comfortable and be in language and in culture with you. It's the reality that it wasn't until 1988 that when the Women Business Ownership Act passed that it became illegal for financial institutions to require women to have a co-signer for their small business loan. It was 1988 when women were going into financial institutions and hearing a banker say, who is the man that will co-sign this loan? And the future that we pave in 2024 into 2025 and beyond that says, a woman who leads her business needs no one else other than the people that she needs. And how banks like Wells Fargo can show up in spaces like that. So that is a little bit about me. I'm from New York, proud to be with y'all today. Some New York in the house? Awesome. And I'll pass it to our panel to introduce themselves, starting with you, Joanne.
Thanks, Robbie. And I'm Joanne Hill. I serve as Director of the Office of Customer Experience at the U.S. Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency. I've been with the agency now for about half its lifetime. True story, MBDA just became codified, for those of you who know about the agency, about 4 years ago, back in 2021. We existed by way of executive order, and then we became permanent in 2021 as a federal bureau within the Department of Commerce. Thank you. And over the years, I've heard many stories, and I'm looking forward to sharing and imparting some wisdom with you about being an entrepreneur, strategies around how to grow and expand and scale your businesses. I started my career right here in the ATL. I worked for MBDA in the Atlanta regional office for about a dozen years before going to headquarters. And so you know, if you've been here in Atlanta, you understand that it is a mecca for entrepreneurship. And so I look forward to imparting wisdom and nuggets that you can take away from today's session. It's an honor and privilege to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Francis?
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. First and foremost, hope. I'm a big fan of hope, and I hope you are too as well. I'm from the U.S. Agency for International Development. I'm from the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, but for the purposes of this session, Small Business Office, okay? I want to acknowledge my colleagues right there, center stage from me, Janir, Marie, Amber from USAID. You may have already met them. We have a table here. We're excited to participate in this event. I have over 2 decades of experience in federal acquisition and small business. I'm hopeful that today I can impart some information about USAID and our unique mission as an international agency. We don't buy everything that everybody else buys in the federal marketplace, so hopefully you'll find this session informative and helpful. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Francis.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Gail Cabrera, and I am with Truist. Thank you, Erin. Well, I am with Truist, and I help lead our small business on the virtual channels that go up to $5 million in revenue. And I'm really excited to be here today because when we think about our purpose at Truist to inspire and build better lives and communities, I have never been in a thriving community in which our small businesses are not also thriving. And so when we think about the success of our communities and of the people in those communities, it's really dependent on those small businesses. And so we really work to help those small businesses thrive, to grow, to reach their goals, and jump those hurdles.
Thank you, Gail. All right, let's hear it for an incredible panel. I like it, we're a bank government sandwich, is what we are on stage right now. I really appreciate that today's session is called Rise and Thrive. And so we're going to start in the rise and talk about some of the challenges that entrepreneurs are facing. How many in the room are entrepreneurs? Fantastic. How many, the challenges some of you are facing? Because the reality that we hear consistently around access to capital, resources, information, barriers to entry, those kinds of things are true. But then we also just want to spend some time, obviously, talking about, and what can we do about it? And then we'll move on and we'll talk about innovation. And the thrive in my mind is, it is 2024 and things are changing so rapidly. How many caught the AI panel yesterday on the main stage? Wasn't it amazing? Yeah. Absolutely incredible. And I really appreciated the specific reference to AI tools for entrepreneurs. We're gonna talk a little bit about that today. But let's start with this. So for the panel, what are the most significant barriers that women and minority entrepreneurs face when trying to access capital and information? And how can the financial industry and government agencies evolve to better support these business owners? And Gail, if you don't mind, I'd love you to start from your perspective on just what entrepreneurs are facing today.
Sure. So when we think about the barriers and the challenges for access to capital, a lot of that comes from how do I even access it, right? Like, what is that core to it? People say you need business plans and you need to get ready. But we don't also talk about what is the secret sauce that the banks and your investors are looking for to get you there. So we think about what is the quality of your financial statements? Do you have the adequate quality of financial statements? For my entrepreneurs in the room, we're always told you need a business plan. But let me be clear, no matter what stage of your business you are in, you always need some kind of business plan. That business plan may transition into a strategic plan, and I guarantee you, even the largest companies still have strategic plans. Think about where you are going and how are you going to get there. We also need to make sure that you understand to articulate exactly that. I don't know how many times people come ready for that capital, but they can't articulate exactly what the capital will be used for and how that is going to transform their business. If you cannot articulate that and say, if I do this, I expect X, Y, and Z to happen, it will make things a lot harder for you to actually have that capital. So it's not good enough just to say, I need $50,000 to hire a new person. What is that new person going to do? What am I expecting from that new person? What are the KPIs that I'm going to have, key performance indicators for that? When you can explain that, a lot of those barriers start to go away, because at the end of the day, we all have that one cousin who never pays you back, so you don't give them money, right? Everybody got that one cousin? Mine's not a cousin, it's an uncle, but we got him and we love him. But you don't want to be that person. At the end of the day, everyone just wants to get their money back if you're accessing that capital, whether it's through a return, whether it's through a loan payment. So you have to make sure you can articulate that and make people feel good about giving you that access.
Yeah, that was so great. You know, I always think about an entrepreneur in their first year makes such critical decisions. What do I spend the money that I have on? Do I advertise? Do I buy signage? Do I hire an employee? Do I accumulate inventory? Do I license a website? And those decisions are so critical because it is still true that more businesses fail in their first 2 years than succeed. And so being an entrepreneur is about being brave and courageous and resilient through those types of challenges. I have a question. How many in the room know what a CDFI is? Raise your hand. Oh, this is the best showing I've ever seen. Pat yourselves on the back. If you did not raise your hand, a CDFI is a community development financial institution, and financial institutions like Gail's and mine give millions of dollars a year, so a couple things can happen. Number one, because not every small business, to your point, has everything they need to get the financing they're looking for at the get. And so they need some support, and these often nonprofits, CDFIs, provide incubation and that first round of lending. Actually, Joanne's going to talk a little bit about that technical assistance side and what the MBDA is going to do around that later on. But if you don't know what a CDFI is, jot down this web address. It's bizresourcenavigator.com. Biz, B-I-Z, resourcenavigator.com. It's something we did called the Small Business Resource Navigator, which is a way for every entrepreneur, whether you are that entrepreneur or you know one, who's looking for those kinds of resources, you can plug in what you're looking for and it will match you with the best organization to serve your needs, the most likely to give you that loan that you might be looking for or provide that technical assistance. The way I think about it is, these types of organizations, CDFIs that provide the support, should spend zero time trying to find you. They should spend all their time trying to help you. And what Gail and I can do is help make those connections so that they are spending no time trying to find you, and then all their time trying to help you. But Francis, Joanne, what about from the government perspective? What would you say?
Well, I'm gonna kind of go a little bit more focused from the information aspect. I don't think from capital you guys got that covered, I think. And I know SBA does do a loan program. But I want to talk a little bit about barriers to accessing or entering into a federal marketplace in an agency and becoming a prime contractor. So my experience is that the government will always look at whether or not the work that you've done in the past is relevant in size and scope. But if you're trying to knock at the door to get in, how do you address that? Subcontracting. I think you should always look at possibly being a subcontractor. And that's my program, so I'm kind of talking about it because I am the program manager over subcontracting for USAID. We believe that we build our small business prime contractors through their subcontracting work. They learn the agency, they understand what we do and what we don't do, they build a reputation. And so when it's time for them to go after a prime contract, they have already done the work through being a subcontractor. So that's one avenue to get through that barrier because, again, you're trying to get in the door. The other thing I would suggest is we're one of the few agencies to do personal service contracts. So what is that? We're actually procuring a person. We generally have maybe a project overseas. We're an international agency in 80 different countries. And we may need an expert in education or governance or water sanitation or conflict resolution specific to a region of the world. We will put it out on the Systems for Award Management, SAM.gov, and we're basically asking for your resume. Tell us what you know, how you could manage this project, and sign a contract to go for approximately 2 to 3 years to manage it. That builds past performance. That builds expertise so that you can go after more work for USAID. So those are the kind of barriers that we acknowledge that is unique to USAID. And I want to say one other thing, general to the federal marketplace. We have a government speak. We speak in acronyms, we say things differently, we describe things differently. In order for us to even get a job, it's a different process than it is in private sector. And so in order for you to be prepared to break through the barrier, I think you need to access some of the resources we have. We have what it used to be called Procurement Technical Assistance Center, but we call it the Apex Accelerators. They're located in every state. They're generally located at the university or the college, and you can just go in and meet with a counselor and get a better understanding of the federal marketplace, what we procure, how we procure it, because it is different. It's completely different than private sector, but it is an opportunity for you to break through those barriers and get that information so that you can access an opportunity.
Yeah. That was going to be my question, Francis. So if I'm sitting in this group right now and saying, I'd love to be a subcontractor, how the heck do I find the contractor to be the sub? You know, where should they go to make that first step?
Well, first and foremost, for USA, I'm going to speak for USAID. I can't speak for Joanne or any other federal agency that's here, but for USAID, we do about 3 or 4 outreach events. I'm actually planning one. It's a webinar. We do things in person and online, and what we're trying to do is access and create a networking environment. And so what we're doing is a marketplace engagement where I'm bringing the prime contractors, 3 key prime contractors for our agency. The #1 prime contractor is involved in this event, actually. And then we're going to bring the small businesses in. And one of the things that we've been striving at USAID to do is to drill down to what is it causing the primes to say, we can't find any small businesses to sub to, or we can't find a service-disabled veteran-owned or a woman-owned small business, in this case, because we're talking about minority, woman-owned. So whatever they're saying, we're saying, look, I meet those firms every day. They call me and email me and tap me on my shoulder at every event. So look, let me bring you into this space. You tell them exactly what you're looking for. We're going to bring you into this space, and what we're hoping is that you'll have an organic conversation and hopefully move towards some meaningful discussions and possibly a teaming arrangement. So that's what we need to do more of in the federal marketplace, but I think USAID is trying to do more of that because we recognize we build our best small business primes from our subcontractors.
That's so great, thank you. Yeah, Joanne, we'd love to hear more, especially on the technical assistance side and
Sure.
the information the MBDA is providing. Yeah.
Absolutely, and so we started off, I think you started off asking, what are the challenges that entrepreneurs face? The number one impediment is access to capital. That is the number one impediment. That is where I started my career here in Atlanta with the FDIC, and then onward to, some of you might be familiar with Citizens Trust Bank. The bank that I worked for was acquired by CTB, and so I got to see that firsthand, to live through entrepreneurs getting started and the challenges and impediments that they face with growing and scaling their businesses, and had also been married to a banker, so knew and understood the challenges along that journey, if you will. But at MBDA, we have a national network of 131 business centers, programs, and initiatives. The one that I want to focus on is our Capital Readiness Program. This program addresses that impediment. MBDA partnered with the U.S. Department of Treasury, who infused a large chunk of money for us to stand up 43 capital readiness programs throughout America to help you, the entrepreneurs, understand how to access capital. That range of capital that they provide starts with microloans all the way through private equity and venture capital. The size of the companies that we serve as an agency throughout America are small businesses, meaning, up to about $250,000 in sales, up to $500,000, $1 million. We even have some companies in our portfolio that do $1 billion or more in revenues. And so it runs the gamut for the level of sophistication and service delivery that we offer to you. mbda.gov/CRP, Capital Readiness Program. My colleague, Laura Alm, is also here. Laura, if you could wave your hand. Laura is here. We have an exhibit booth. We will share more with you about that program and how we get into the intricacies and the weeds of how we help those businesses. Here in Atlanta, because many of you are probably from here, our cooperative partner is Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech administers our Business Center program. They also have a remarkable hub that they're developing to foster these teaming arrangements, to introduce them to introduce you to contract opportunities with the federal government as well as the private sector. The Apex Accelerator, MBDA just signed an MOU with the U.S. Department of Defense. That's another one of our partners, a part of the portfolio that I lead for the agencies is partnerships, public-private partnerships. That particular memorandum of understanding is very strategic. It is very difficult for firms to get inside of the Department of Defense. Going to our business center now at Georgia Tech or any one of the 41 located throughout America will be able to help you to do just that. I also would be remiss, I don't know if they're in the room, but we have 2 capital readiness partners here in Atlanta. One is the Greater Urban League of Atlanta, and the second is the U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce affiliate here in Atlanta. Again, you can go to our website at mbda.gov and identify those, or you can stop by our booth and scan the QR code and learn more about how they can help you and your businesses to grow and scale. We also work very closely with USAID and about 37 other federal agencies. As part of what we do with those federal agencies is to help you get in the door, right? It's very difficult if you don't understand the jargon, you don't understand the power of teaming and joint venturing to go after these contracts that my colleague here is talking about. Huge advocate and proponent of teaming and joint venturing, even on the access to capital side. So for example, if you own a construction company and you were looking at going after a particular bid. You have a core competency that is remarkable, but you don't have all of what it takes to win that bid. But you would be a remarkable teaming partner to the prime on that contract, right? Encourage you to consider it doesn't always have to be 100% or I'm not going to get involved. If you find yourself where you can joint venture with a prime who can offer the bonding capacity that you need to pull you in as a sub, to be a part of this $100 million contract, and you can do $5 million of work, that's good business. That's good business for a small business. So I would encourage you to think about teaming, joint venturing, partnering, not only when it comes to contract opportunities, but also when it comes down to securing the financing that you need through bonding and other levels of capital.
Yeah, that's so good. So just to recap, you know, a few of the things hopefully that you're thinking about is getting the information like Gail was talking about, understanding your business, but also knowing there's so many resources. I also do know as entrepreneurs, it's hard to know where to go. And so what both Francis and Joanne talked about in terms of SBDCs or procurement development centers or the MBDA affiliates as places for you to go to say, who should I know in this community? How do I become? And if I could give you one piece of just banker advice, is keep in mind, as a business owner, you are a force. Our bankers at Wells Fargo, I'm sure at Truist, are intimidated because they want to give you the right information. You know so much about your business. I know sometimes it feels intimidating sitting across from somebody from the government or at a financial institution. Just know that they're probably just as scared of you. And so if we can all just be honest and scared together and have a real conversation, they know your banker should know things that can help you about the options for financing or resources that can help you. And certainly organizations like USAID and MBDA have the resources to help get you connected, especially looking for contracts. But let's move now to the Thrive. So what is happening today and into tomorrow? We heard a little bit about AI yesterday. So just would love to hear from your perspective, how do you see the face of entrepreneurship changing? How is that impacting minority and women-owned businesses today? Who'd like to tackle that first?
I'll start.
Thanks, Joe.
So we have a partner, one of our national partners, who talked about helping business owners who are looking at, let's say you have to develop a business plan now, right? You remember when you used to have to go ahead and hire a consultant to help you write a business plan and pay them a nice chunk of change, right? Now you can use AI to help you develop the framework as well as the narrative for the business plan. Now, that said, you still need to integrate your expertise and knowledge, and you may have to refine it to ensure that certain qualitative aspects as well as quantitative aspects of what you need to convey in that business plan is illuminated. But the thing that you can do now, you no longer have to have and pay somebody $5,000 to help you write a business plan when you can use, you heard it last night, ChatGPT. If you're not on ChatGPT, you're already behind. You heard it firsthand. But leverage technology tools to help you with accessing data and data analytics as well to frame your business so that you gain a competitive advantage when you're out here in the marketplace, and leverage the online marketplace. It is one of the best ways to market your business, again, typically free of charge. You could put your business in the marketplace and just scale. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge about public-private partnerships on the private side. We have a partnership with Amazon. And Amazon, how to become a seller on the Amazon marketplace is one of the things that we do through that partnership. Again, visit one of our centers and you can learn more about that, but leverage technology, please.
That was great. Thanks, Joanne.
Absolutely.
Francis, please.
I'll jump in. I'm going to tell a story. So with the session last night was really, really good, Joanne. You absolutely right on with that, with the discussion on AI. But the interesting thing is I came here with a story about my own niece. She's starting a startup. It's in the private sector. But she called me and she said, you know, I used an AI system to help me because I had this opportunity to go after a grant, but I didn't have a lot of time to submit the documentation. And I just took a chance and I opened up an account and I used it and it helped me fill out all the documentation. And the amazing thing was when she read the information to me, I said, "You would have wrote this." She said, "Yeah, but it would have took me like 3 times the amount of time to do this and I would have missed that opportunity." AI can leverage and level the playing field, really. I mean, when you think about that opportunity that she was able to get the grant and then purchase the equipment for her startup, otherwise she would have not been able to have the bandwidth to continue to do everything that she's doing and fill out all that documentation for a grant. So the technology aspect of it in AI is amazing. I do think that, you know, as we're going forward in the federal government, as usual, we're going to be looking at it and, you know, in looking at how it will play into what we do across the board. But my experience is we're looking at it in the small business office, because we recognize that there are small businesses, like you mentioned, that talk about a business plan, but that's just small businesses that really, women-owned small businesses as well, who want to kind of better understand what is the best way to prepare a proposal when they're going after a contract. If we can leverage AI to develop some information, webinars, information that will give you tips and give you that information so that you're better to be prepared and not spend thousands of dollars for a consultant, that is going to help you to be more competitive. And so I think technology is the key. And I also will say that the federal government is trying to do a better job. I'm going to talk about USAID, about putting information out there. So I'm talking about business forecasts. We have a very dynamic business forecast at USAID. It's searchable by keyword, by country, by sector, by North American Industry Classification Code, and I'm spelling it out, and you probably don't necessarily, some of you may know what I'm talking about, but the government has certain sectors and codes that's a 6-digit number to indicate what we're procuring. So we have it where you can search under all of those things for opportunities that we're forecasting that we're going to be potentially going out, funding, and competing, or even recompeting if it's an existing contract. We also have something is a country development cooperation agreement that USAID does, and it's free. You go on USA.gov, you search the country, Kenya, Ghana, you know, whatever country you have an interest in doing work in, and you will see a 5-year plan the USAID has entered in cooperation with that country, laying out what areas that we plan to support them in. Is it education? Is it water sanitation? Is it governance? Is it conflict resolution? Whatever that is, it's laid out there, and you can kind of determine whether or not that's a good area or region of the world that you should go after based on your expertise and technical skills for your firm. So the information is out there, it's free. Just go to a federal agency, but specifically USA.gov, and we have a wealth of information for you. So leverage the technology to your advantage.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a little different approach, y'all, on this of how entrepreneurs are changing and how we're growing our businesses. And if we really think about where we are today and how many boomers are going to transfer that wealth over the next 10 years, we got to think differently about how we grow our small businesses also. So when I think about how our small businesses are growing, it's not always that complete startup. It could be someone working their W-2 job and says, I want to make my money work smarter for me, so I'm going to go buy this laundromat, I'm going to go buy this car wash, it's going to take limited resources to make this thing run, and I'm going to go invest here. Those are a lot of the new LLCs we're also seeing. Also think about it from a transfer of wealth perspective of, I own 5 Zaxby's here in the metro Atlanta area, and I want to grow. Well, you know what? I may not want to scale by having to find the land, by having to find the building permits, to find the new employees. But this guy over here is saying, I now want to exit my business, so I'm gonna buy his 5 here in Alabama, and I'm going to expand my footprint from that perspective. So when we think about how we're gonna change as entrepreneurs and how we're gonna grow, we gotta think about it differently also, because the opportunities that are gonna happen in the next 10 years are in abundance. And if we're being honest with ourselves, gone are the days of transferring it to our children. These new kids, me included, don't wanna do what mom and daddy did. I don't wanna do that. I'm gonna go over here, and this is my passion. But think about also when those people are transferring that, those are the investments that they can then make for their children in their passions and grow their entrepreneurial journey by themselves.
That was
just
great.
a different way to think about it.
Thanks, Gail. So we're going to transition to your questions. Do we have a couple mic runners and handhelds while they're getting set? I'm going to say something real quick. You know, I think a theme of our panel today is it feels more complicated than it is. And so kind of like when you open up a phone today and there's no instruction manual because the phone just works and you just follow your prompts. If you're a business owner or you know a business owner today who's not leveraging AI, from my perspective, it is a leveler. It takes what used to cost a lot of money to write a social media post, to apply for a grant, as Francis and I were talking about, to do your projections. How many in the room love financial projections? Nobody, exactly. Thank you. You and I will hang out later. I like it. I was one of my mentees is a business owner, Nicole is her name, and I'm like, you've never done financial projections? So let's pull out an Excel sheet. I'm sharing my screen. And she's like, I think ChatGPT can do this for me. And sure enough, it can. And so I'm learning all the time too, and simply going to your local community college, SBDC, Chamber of Commerce, this is what they're teaching right now. What should you know about AI in your business, and how can it supplement what you're doing today? Because as the owner, we are the salesperson and the janitor, and AI can help you have a artificial staff until you're ready to have a full staff. So that is my nudge to you, is start trying it, because it will teach you itself how it can be useful in your business. All right, we've got mics. Who's got a question for the panel? There in the back left, and then I got you right here in the center in the brown. You're next.
Okay, I have 2 really quick questions, if that's okay. You just made a really great point about business acquisition and the future of owning a business and equity and things like that. How do you recommend someone learn how to do that or get started in that area of business?
Yeah, I think there's a few ways to do that. Number one, there are resources like the SBDCs who can teach you about that, because a lot of times when people are acquiring the business, it's something that they do not do normally, right? So getting that experience. Number 2, I always like to say you should have your own little village, and your village should consist of 4 people, okay? Plus something else, okay? I'm talking about 2 villages. The first one is your bail, because whenever you're starting and you're thinking about what you're gonna acquire and how you're gonna do it, you need to have 4 people in your corner. Your banker, your accountant, an insurance agent, and an attorney, your lawyer. That's your bail. Bail gets you out of everything. And the reason why this is important is because so many people go into business trying to get an acquisition, but they don't think about that every single person in your team has a different goal. For instance, my goal as your banker is to give you money and get paid back. I give you money, you're gonna pay me back. We're gonna be friends as long as you pay me back, okay? Your accountant, their goal, and y'all love your accountants when y'all don't pay Uncle Sam, right? You're like, yep, I don't want to pay my taxes, or I don't want to pay I want to pay limited taxes. Here's the problem. When you're friends with your accountant to the point where you're really happy with your accountant, but now you want to go for an SBA loan to acquire your business to make your money work on the side, but you don't show you make any money, that I don't feel like I'm going to get paid, it's a conflict of interest at that point. So you got to make sure that you have all of your team together to understand what you're actually trying to do to get there and to get those opportunities. Accounts are also good resources for who's about to sell their business. Mm-hmm. Bankers are also good resources in our premier world of who's trying to exit their business, who's looking for their next retirement plan. Going to events like that and finding those folks is a good way to do it. I'll also say make sure when you get your attorney, how you structure it when you first acquire the business is also going to dictate what tax strategies you can take and what financing you're going to be eligible for. So that's also important. And then last but not least, y'all, an insurance agent is really important. And if it's anything Hurricane Helene has taught us in small business, is insurance is important. How many people did not have business disruption insurance? And so when it flooded, and when tourism flooded in the Western Carolinas, do not have proper things in place to help them get through this. So that means when you're building and your business cannot operate, businesses actually have an insurance product that you can say, here's what I typically do in this amount of time, and insurance will cover you from an income perspective on that amount of time. But you have to be prepared, and having those people in your corner gets you ready for that and gets you to see those opportunities because they'll know those will be in their circles. The last thing I'll say is have you your own little board of directors, your own personal board of directors. And when you think about who is on your board of directors, it does not have to be someone specifically in the industry in which you are trying to get. Yes, you might want someone in that industry, but you might also want someone to say, this person has really good leadership skills that I want to go after them to say, be my mentor in that regard. This person has really good sales skills of organically growing. I want them in my corner. This person is really just good at networking, and I'm an introvert, which I am not, y'all, but we got introverts. How can they help me be efficient with my time and getting into the rooms that I need to be in? Because time is a finite resource. How many of y'all have time to waste? Well, let me be clear, if you're an entrepreneur, you really don't have time to waste. So make sure you're being efficient with your time and you have your people that you're spending your time wisely.
Yeah, I would add somebody to the board of directors too. We didn't get a chance to talk about mentorship, but identifying somebody who is in your industry but 5 years ahead of you, 10 years ahead of you, someone ideally you don't compete with, so maybe they're in another city or another market, or they do something slightly different, because that person's gonna also give you really great advice on that board of directors that Gail was just talking about. The lady here in the tan had the next question, if we can run the mic to her. There you are.
You're welcome. Hi, I'm Bethany Nonami. I work with women and minority businesses to get certified. We've helped people close over $32 million in corporate and government opportunities, and I know when we have cash flow and profit, communities get better, the world gets better. As we switch to a new administration, what can we do to take advantage of what's coming?
Yeah, Joanne.
Yeah, so I think, that's a wonderful question. America is a capitalistic society, okay? And what we know is the news trends of the folk that make up the new administration are, in all candor, businessmen and women that are gonna be coming in that want to move commerce. And so what I would suggest is that you look at the policy agenda, right? I can't talk policy for the record, but what I can tell you is that you can look at, what are the industry sectors that are being introduced or supported by the administration. One in particular that I could tell you that's not gonna go away is aerospace. If you are not in tune to what's going on in aerospace, you heard a little bit about it last night on the main stage with the panelists talking about GPT and this I forget her name, but she talked about this out of space technology that is being used to create all of everything that's coming to us with regard to the technologies and innovations that are gonna really reshape the future of commerce, right? So if you are a business owner and you're looking at how do I adjust and adapt my business model so that I can become a part of the supply chain, whether it's the public sector or the private sector. With this public sector in this aerospace industry, you're gonna be looking at, you might not have even ever thought about doing business with NASA. If you haven't, you should, right? And the DOD, right? Because a lot of heard all the talk about drones and all of what's going on with drones and how they're reshaping all things that we do. Please follow the trends of commerce. Working at the U.S. Department of Commerce, I can tell you, everything that moves business for America is under that umbrella, okay? So, and in my closing, I would like to just share, at mbda.gov, you can learn about our programs, but also take the time, if you go to doc.gov, to learn about the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, okay? The Economic Development Administration, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies that administers all things related to what we manufacture in America, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and one that's close to my heart, near and dear, where I've detailed with them for a year or so, is the International Trade Administration. It's another one of our close partners. If you have not thought about doing business globally, again, with technology, you don't have to travel across the globe to do business internationally. There are U.S. export assistance centers located throughout America, about 107 of them, that are designed to help you. Your tax dollars pays for this, to help you grow and scale your business internationally by selling globally, and you can do that on the Amazon platform and other global e-commerce platforms. And so think broad, think wide. Don't get relegated to thinking that, oh, it's a new administration, they're not going to support our small businesses. No, commerce in America, remember this, America wants to be number one globally. That would never change. Yeah. And so we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to move commerce, and we, a part of this room, are going to help America continue to be number one economically and be the global leader.
Thank you, Joanne. I wish we had more time for questions, but we were getting the hook. Let me just say you have been so lovely to pay attention, and thank you for that, and an incredible thank you to this amazing panel. Our time went too fast. We will be here. I hope if you only heard one thing, we're all rowing with you, and so please come see us. We'd love to just hear more about you and your business. Thank you.